Hello, hello, everybody. I'm very excited today for this episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, the show where I bring you champion people with a particular story or particular knowledge to share, people who bring excitement on this platform. And today it's gonna be very special. And like I said, I'm really excited by the conversation that I'm gonna have today. We're having an amazing woman who's going to be sharing about health information in the new normal, and we're going to hear about a latest project and how it's going to be something that can actually affect us positively, I would say. So I'm really amazed. And when I say amazing, I mean it. It's going to be special. And because this woman is a game changer, she's a visionary, she's a disruptor, but at the same time, a humanitarian. So she has all the attribute to help us going forward as we enter the new normal, as we enter the post-COVID era. So without further ado, I'm just gonna bring her, and as usual, I want you to have your pen, your paper, something to write on because you're gonna learn a lot today, and I don't want you to miss out on anything. So get ready. We're gonna start the conversation, but you'll know who is my guest. She's gonna have the opportunity to introduce herself, and I know you're gonna be amazed. It's gonna be really amazing. So don't go anywhere. We are starting. Welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, the show that is brought to you by the Birai Telekima Global Leadership Organization.
Good like now.
Is it all right? Okay. Let's get started right into it. And that is the power of labels, right?
On memories. But as I got older, I started to be more aware of some of the abusive sides of
So welcome, Mary, to the Greatness Engineering Hour show. Such a pleasure to have you. I'm already so excited, by our conversation. But before I go into full excitement, just want you to introduce yourself to the audience and let us know who you are and the information that we need to know about you before we start, this conversation about health, in the new normal.
Excellent. Thank you so much, my dear. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, and just an honor to be alongside you. I've been listening to you. It's been great to meet you and to see all the incredible work you've been doing in Europe as well. So I'm quite honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So, a little bit about me. I come from a very diverse background. First and foremost, I'm a child of God, so God is my rock and the heart of where I come from resides in the peace and love of God, of course. And so that's first and foremost. Wouldn't be where I am without His grace, of course. Mother of two amazing young adults, and that's just been an incredible journey being a mother as well. And then just over the 20 years plus of my career, I have been very blessed to traverse the world and traverse the disciplines of information technology, right? So it's been an incredible journey. From the dreams of a little child, I come from a place of humble beginnings. I was first given up for adoption at birth, and adopted not long after that by an African American family in the deep south of Louisiana. And so you throw this little city girl from New York, even as an infant, because that's where her DNA probably came from, right, into the throes of the bayous of Louisiana, and you get a very interesting outcome from that.
I can
To say the least.
imagine.
But it was. Yeah, it was quite a bit of it's a bit of a disheartening experience to a certain degree as well. In the times where I grew up, racism and just injustice of racial and colorism, and the experiences, my own personal experiences with bullying, abuse, and just hateful behavior by people who not only probably came from their own wounded space in
Mm-hmm.
life, right? But it was quite challenging, and but you know what? It gave me the opportunity to build a life of resilience,
Mm-hmm.
and it taught me a lot at a young age. I had to learn to get comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and I had to learn to grow up very quickly, and to be in a place of where a place where you don't let the external bother the
Mm-hmm.
internal. You had to
Mm-hmm.
really work hard on that. And I think, as this little tyke growing up, I think before I even knew what manifestation was, right, I was sitting in my little safe place, dreaming of all the incredible opportunities that I knew I wanted to experience in the world. And by God's incredible grace, I've been living them. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's been a great
And,
journey.
and and it's amazing to listen to you, because at the end of the day we realize all the challenges that we go through, at the end they become blessing in disguise, but we don't know it. Back there it was probably so difficult and miserable, but now you can you live those experience, use those experience, especially with the pandemic. Now you've built your resilience, so it's really for you, you're gonna use the same strategies and that you've been using in your personal life, and that's very powerful. So I mean, through that, you've had I mean, an amazing career. You've worked for big companies, but now you've challenged yourself to start this project called Bias. And what actually led you to this point?
Yeah, great question. I have to go back and honor my mother in that sense. My mother, a great woman of faith, fought a very difficult battle with diabetes. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I took my mother into my home, I became a single parent, unfortunately at that time. And so when I took my mother into my home, she was there to help me as I was doing quite a bit of traveling with my career. And then about 9 months after that, 6, 7 months after that, maybe nine, I decided, it was too much being away from the kids and away from home. So I really
Mm-hmm.
took a bit of a pivot in my career, and I decided I wasn't going to travel very much, especially internationally. And so I really focused on my family and my children and my mother. And during that time, about a few months later, my mom had a massive heart attack. And she
Mm-hmm.
really, that was kind of the spiral, if you will, of the last day of her life. And she was in the throes of just surgery after surgery, amputations, dialysis, medical challenges, from one end of the alphabet to the other, right? And so I decided, at that point, there had to be a better way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while I didn't have the opportunity at that time to do something about it, I started to just in the journal write down, I'm going to do something about this one of these days. And I kind of came back to it. So that's really
Mm-hmm.
where all of it started, and
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, we've had 200 years of medical advancements, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do any research out there, and yet we still in 2021 do not have a comprehensive view of all of our health information, right? Where it's
Mm-hmm.
truly accessible, viewable, and shareable with anyone, anywhere, anytime. And when I decided to leave Shell and do something different, I said, you know what, this is a great opportunity. You know, I'm always one to kind of go after I'm a bit of a contrarian thinker, right? And so I really go after what people think are the tough problems, and really question the norms around them and figure out why do we, number one, make it so complicated, right? But why do we think it's so complicated, and how do we start addressing it? You know, how do we start picking it apart piece by piece? And so I really focused and got a bit of clarity around that, and yeah, just use my the struggles I've seen in my own experience and with my own family and friends, and decided that that was the way I wanted to go. Right? Our medical records don't travel across the street with us, much less across the city or across the globe, right? And so, how do we get to that point where we can solve that problem? Yeah.
And it's very important, especially in this era where we can't move much, but if we want some expertise, I mean, using this type of tool and platform can help. But before we go further, let's have let's see on a video what your company is all about, and then we'll come back and learn a little bit more on what you guys are doing.
Our lives have changed. COVID-19 has indiscriminately stricken our world, and the crisis has shown a light on how underprepared we are when health challenges completely take us by surprise. Can you imagine the emergency room staff knowing everything about you medically before you reach the hospital? How better prepared can they be to diagnose you more efficiently? Seconds count when lives are on the line. I've been in the technology field for over 20 years, working around the world in many disciplines. Helping companies achieve financial results and competitive market advantages has been exciting, rewarding, and challenging, no question. But the most formidable challenge was caring for my mother, who lost her battle with type 1 diabetes. During those difficult times, it was a struggle to keep track of all of the health information, numerous doctor's appointments, prescriptions, surgeries, amputations, dialysis. As a mother myself, juggling a full-time career, I knew there was a better way. That's why I founded B1OS. Accessing personal health information anytime, from anywhere in the world, without any worry of confidentiality or security is now possible. Your medical information is instantly accessible at your fingertips. At B1OS, we empower individuals with both access and ownership of their personal health information while providing real-time sharing of data with trusted contacts. With health certification becoming the next normal, our B1OS Health Pass allows for sharing your current health information with your trusted contacts, including COVID-19 diagnostics, test results, and vaccines. Our QR code can be utilized for entry into businesses, schools, entertainment and sporting events, airport security, customs, and more. You know all those papers you have to fill out every time you visit a medical professional or institution? With B1OS, all that data can be shared online, remotely, before you even arrive at your appointment or the hospital. With our full stack solution, B1OS enables you to manage appointments and payments online while allowing for remote care on demand through the integration of telemedicine and IoT medical devices. Utilizing AI and machine learning, we're creating a personal health experience based on the needs and conditions of our customers and their loved ones, providing them with valuable data to help them live a healthier life.
We are back. We are back with Mary, and so B1OS. So, what do you do exactly, and what is who are you targeting, and what is your the target market, and what are you trying to achieve through B1OS?
Yeah, great questions. Great questions. So, let me start with our mission statement, right? So our mission is quite bold one, right? We want to empower every human on the planet with access and ownership of their medical records, right? All their personal health information. And regardless, by the way, whether they have a phone or not, right? And that's the key. When I started designing B1OS, I really took it from the point of, how do we offer a solution for everyone, right? It doesn't matter whether they are sitting in the most underdeveloped countries in the world or in the 1% of the world. It should be an equal playing field, right? And so I designed with that particular thought in mind, right? When I was thinking of the Health Pass and the full stack of BIOS, we have two different solutions. It became very clear to me that we had to build a platform where technology was not a hindrance to those who couldn't afford it, but yet could actually serve all, right? And so for us, the target market is, I always say to everybody, well, it's for everyone, right? And while we're championing medical transparency in the new normal, what does that really mean? What's it all about? It's about being able to have access to my medical information and be able to provide that to healthcare professionals of my choice, right? To allow them to access my information, to provide me optimal and effective diagnostics, right? Merely, John Hopkins did a research not long ago that said over 250,000 Americans die in early death and that's just in America alone, because of they don't have a comprehensive view, if you will, of the patients, right? If you think about people who are rushed into emergency rooms every single day, how much information does a doctor really have, right? So how do we actually create that? How do we provide that medical transparency? And how do we actually democratize medical data, right? And put it in the hands of those to whom it belongs. BIOS allows you to share that critical health information with any hospital, any clinic, any doctor's office, anywhere in the world that's registered within BIOS through our freemium solution, right? So say tomorrow you're getting on an airplane or a train or a bus or any type of transportation, you're traveling somewhere in the world, you can link your tickets into the solution as well, right? So it allows that for that opportunity. You saw a little bit about that in the video that we just showed, right? And we also have a solution that allows for a COVID status to be shared quite easily through a QR code, and it gives not only your self-reported information, but it gives also your information around any diagnostics or even your vaccinations that you might have had, right?
And this is quite powerful because it's easy access and you can access it everywhere. It's really revolutionary, what you're putting together, because it's always, especially for people living in developing countries, it's just such an hindrance and such a challenge for them to be able to have access to the right, not only specialists, but also reconcile, the data, put the data together. So it's really a good thing to, to promote and see how, they can implement it and be part of the global platform that you're creating, because that's gonna be key. But then, it's, it looks really good on paper, but I assume that you had some challenges. So what have been the key challenges for you, or the key obstacles that you face or are still facing to be able to, to fully deliver the product and the project, in to your target market?
Yeah, great question. Great question. The target markets as well for us is not only in the medical space, it's also in the educational space, right? It's for schools. We have solutions for schools, for medical institutions and doctors and clinics. We have a solution for educational institutions, for businesses, working with a few governments around medical tourism, tourism in general, and the healthcare space, right? Some of the challenges in doing that is around getting medical professionals and institutions to kind of decondition the mindsets around the fact that the creator of the medical data doesn't mean that you're the sole proprietor owner of that data, right? And I think that if you look at a lot of the systems, a lot of these systems are built, even though some of the systems are coming out with patient portals, these systems are built with the institution in mind, really, right? And so I'm a doctor, I create the information, I'm an institution, I create the information, and the information is out there, and we may or may not have access to it, right? So I think it's getting the mindset of of the large companies out there that host this data, the doctors the medical professionals who create the data, that I, as the patient, I'm just as important, right, as my data is. So therefore, I should have that access. I should be able to also share that data. It could one day save my life, right? I should be able to share that with whom I deem necessary. I think another challenge is around legislation, right? I think that legislation doesn't dictate and cannot dictate, right, who I share my medical records with. But I was recently just talking with a company in France in the medical services space. And I was asking them, how do they handle data cross borders? Because they have some of their services that they provide in a few different countries in Europe. And they said, wow, it's very difficult, Mary. It's very challenging, and because of the regulations in place. So again, it kind of goes back a little bit to that rebel inside of me, I guess, that contrarian thinker inside of me that says, well, it really shouldn't be that way, right? Because it's my data. It belongs to me, actually. So I think we need to get to that point where we shift that paradigm and we realize that we as should be the owners of our data, right? It's not that they shouldn't have access or have a copy of it either, but we should definitely have access to it, right? And so getting legislation to just kind of remove some of the complexity and the I think archaic rules, if you will, around that sits in the space of medical information, to open up it a bit more, to say that me as the individual who owns the data, I should be able to take that data and do whatever I want with that data because it's mine, right? And then I think, and different areas have different challenges, right? When you think about partnering with other companies, getting large informational medical information services companies to realize that BIOS isn't in major competition with these guys, right? We want to augment them. We want to help in collaboration with them, because at the end of the day, we care about the patient, right? And I'm sure they do too, but we really put the individual who owns the data, the individual who has the medical challenges, the individual who needs this data, no matter whether they're traveling to different doctors in their city who may not be in the same network, right? Or whether they're traveling across the globe on vacation, right? I should be able to have that access at my fingertips. So how do we work to make sure that we're serving everyone? And then, of course, in underdeveloped countries, right? India is one of those great opportunities. I'm living here currently, and I've been working here for the last year. And as I talk to a lot of the doctors where there is still heavy paper process here, just getting them to truly understand the technology itself, right? Get them to kind of get their mindset away from, it doesn't have to be on paper. Let's start moving to digital. There's a lot of advantages and benefits to that, right? So getting them to understand the technology and connectivity, and changing the mindset that it's okay to move away from paper, right? I mean, if you think about it, India is one of the most advanced countries in the world when you look at digital payments, right? So if we can manage our money digitally, why can't we manage our health records digitally, right?
And that's just a mindset, like you said. There are certain things that we do, but we don't do the same, translate them into another industry or another area. We tend to just, stick to one area, and then we forget that we can use the same concept, like you said, in another area. But I think the key thing that I see, when those type of platforms are being built, is people being questioning the security, because we know that data is everything now. So if somebody actually get your data, you can be in trouble. So how are you managing that?
Excellent question. You and I have both been in the oil and gas industry, and the phrase I think these days is around data is the new oil, right? And so, great question. So we've got, I think we're one of the few companies out there that's actually working with blockchain technology. So what we do is we've got, to be a bit technical, right? We have what's called 256 AES encryption from device to server, right? So you've got your mobile device. If it's a person who owns a mobile phone and they're looking at their device and they're looking at their data or inputting records or reviewing records, that data is encrypted. Flowing back and forth. We are working in the Amazon cloud. So currently today, we're not limited to it, but that's where we've started. So we live in the AWS services world. We
Mm-hmm.
have we have data protected at rest as well, of course, and encrypted at rest. And then we have data that is at 512 level encryption on the back end. As we talk about data, taking data from what we call our SQL database environment, where data sits and the
Mm-hmm.
images sits and the artifacts sits, right? And then pushing data itself into the blockchain platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we use Ethereum and we use smart ledgers and whatnot to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Because that's a
one more thing
big
to add
one.
there, blockchain. Yeah, exactly. Blockchain is now, as we know, is one of the most secure opportunities out there today for when you look at how do we keep data safe, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And yeah, blockchain is and I see that with blockchain. I mean, it's like you said, it's a more secure system right now, but people are still very doubtful and fearful of what is blockchain. I'm not gonna implement anything in blockchain because there's this mindset where they think that they're losing control, which is actually the other way around. And so that's why the question that I have, how are you doing your awareness? Because I think it's about awareness as well. So what are the key things that you do, you implement, for the awareness to make sure that people are, get comfortable with what you're proposing?
Yeah, we take it and we do comparisons, of course, right? And if you look at, I mean, banking has now almost all gone to online, right? I mean, you can even
Mm-hmm.
deposit a check online now with banking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at fintech has now been a huge proponent of blockchain technology, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I try to when people say, Mary, what's 256 AES encryption? What does that really mean,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're trying to kind of put it in layman's terms. And it's kind of, I relate it to applications that are out there that are doing this quite well, right? And so you
Mm-hmm.
look
Mm-hmm.
at obviously Signal. Signal is a great app that's come out. A lot of people are trusting Signal a bit more than even WhatsApp these days, but WhatsApp is still
Mm-hmm.
as secure, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's got the same encryption, which means you get that little disclaimer that says no one can read or access your recordings, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's that level of encryption that we put in place. We talk about it as well. We've got biometrics in place to access your data. So no one can just come on your phone or your device and get into your records and see your records. All your data stays in the cloud. None of it's on the phone. So if you lose your phone or you have to use someone else's phone, give you options to go around that. It's all driven by biometrics. In
Mm-hmm.
the underserved areas of the world, we're even driving accessibility to your data by biometrics, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's revolutionary what we're doing. We've been talking to some doctors, and they are just they're extremely excited about what we bring to the market because they have no way to track and trace medical records for people, right? Especially people who in India we call migrant workers, for example, right? They move
Mm-hmm.
around, and if they have to go to a clinic on one side of the city or a clinic on the other side, or even if they go back to their village, how do the doctors keep track of them? How do we ensure that they can have the same opportunities to have the same level of care for their health
Mm-hmm.
as the rest of us, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
so we're using some great technology out there, working with some companies to hone in on doing that all through biometrics. And so, the good Lord gave us specific biometrics on our body that out of 7 billion people, no one has a duplicate, right? So we should utilize that. And yeah, we're trying to simplify it the best we can. And we're trying to help people to understand by just comparing it to, I think I'm going to go back to the example. I think that if if my financial data can be stored in the cloud and protected and accessed through biometrics, then why can't my health data?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So we have Florence. Florence is here. She's watching from Burundi. I mean, she's from Burundi, but she lives in South Africa. So amazing woman as well. and she's actually quite passionate about what the conversation. Interesting. So,
That's
Florence, please ask any question that to Mary if you're interested to know a little bit more. We're gonna have a break, and we'll be back and continue this exciting conversation, I would say, and really see the work that Mary is doing, and the disruption that she's trying to bring into the health sector and into many sectors actually. So let's talk about it after the break, and we will be back in a few minutes. We are back. We are back with Mary. Mary is the CEO of Bias, and she is a game changer, a disruptor, and a visionary. And I want to ask you, Mary, what is, how do you see Bias role post-COVID, in a post-COVID world?
Yeah, I think that great question. I think that, COVID taught us a lot, didn't it, Marilee? I think that the first thing, as we talked a little bit about earlier, what we learned in COVID was how unprepared we were when we all of a sudden had to jump on a telepresence call, for example, right? And
Mm-hmm.
start to see a doctor over a video camera, or have a phone call with them, and how difficult that was, right? We didn't have
Mm-hmm.
the ability to easily share our health information with them, especially if it was a doctor that maybe we hadn't seen before, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of doctors were called to help COVID pandemic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
early in the throes of the pandemic. And so, you heard of a lot of people even dying from other conditions because they couldn't be seen, right? They couldn't have the right diagnostics that needed to be done, or even out of office, out of patient type of
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, type of procedures that had to be done, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so all of this really brought about an awareness around the fact that how do we prepare ourselves better in the future, right? Every
Mm-hmm.
day we put our super cute superhero cape on, and we go, 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 go. Half the
Mm-hmm.
time, we take a pill, we have a headache, we take a pill, we can't sleep, we take a pill, we get anxious about something, and we don't start really looking at the symptoms around what's really causing all of that. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think post COVID, people are starting to get more conscious about their health, right? They're starting to be a
Mm-hmm.
bit more reflective about it. And I think people are pretty sick and tired, at least most of the people that I speak to, and I've spoken to thousands of people over this last year, all over the globe, and just getting feedback and understanding what their challenges are, especially in the space of personal health care. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest challenges is my data is everywhere and nowhere at the same time, right? So how do we solve that problem, and how do we bring about clarity so people can have very easily at their fingertips their critical data, very easily at their fingertips the ability to share that information with anyone, no matter where they are in the world. So I think that is the biggest change that we'll see, and how COVID can really thrive, if you will, for everyone in this post-COVID. Well, we're not even through it yet, right? But as we start to
Mm-hmm.
work more to kind of come out of it, yeah, I think that's probably the biggest, one of the biggest game-changing capabilities we'll have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I talk about post-COVID because we are in the future here in Australia. We're okay. So, but I sometimes forget that there's still a long way to go for some other countries. But I mean, uh, you know. Something that I always, I'm really passionate about is women in male-dominated environments. So I just want to ask you, how, what are the key advice that you would give to somebody who wants to get involved in in the technology area or in STEM, because we need more women in those in those industries. So how, what is your experience first? How did you navigate, and what is, what are the lessons that you can share with us?
Oh, great question. I love this question, by the way. So,
Mm-hmm.
as you well know, I'm a big ambassador and advocate of women in STEM, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing a lot of work in that space for many years. And so for me, I navigated. I've always had a passion for technology. Ever
Mm-hmm.
since, I mean, I was getting my first computer when I went into undergrad, right? And so I think that stick with what you're passionate about. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
passionate about learning technology, you're in a great space because
Mm-hmm.
technology touches every industry. And so the
Mm-hmm.
important message is to think through, it's not just about, oh, if I go into technology, then I'm just going to have to code, or I'm just going to have to, be an engineer or do whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think that when people really start to look at how the field of information technology has grown and expanded over the years, even the course of our careers, right? Just in the last 20 years, it's been pretty incredible. The new opportunities for getting into different areas of technology is just expansive. And so I
Mm-hmm.
really just say, do your homework. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, don't let anybody talk you out of your passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Parent,
Mm-hmm.
aunt, uncle, priest, spiritual advisor, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Find that voice, find your truth, and figure out what that is for you, and start to navigate down that path. I've
Mm-hmm.
mentored and sponsored many people along my journey, very much like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and I always ask them one important question, and that question is, if you could write your own job description right now, what would
Mm-hmm.
it be? What would be the most exciting thing that you would want to do? And then, I made them go away and not answer me the question, of course, right there and then, because I want people to go and be reflective about that. So really take the
Mm-hmm.
time and reflect on what is it I want to do, how can I do it, and then reach out to people.
Mm-hmm.
I think you do the same, right? We come to a point. I've been reaching out to people left and right on LinkedIn and getting connected with incredible people, and people are gracious,
Mm-hmm.
when they have time, and I think for the most part people want to help, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's been a beautiful journey. I just reach out, I ask for help when I need it, and I network. Networking is
Mm-hmm.
huge, and I think someone said your network is your net worth, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge proponent of learning about what you think you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what are the steps to do it, and if you don't, just reach out to people who either inspire you, or you've heard of, or people in your community. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's a key one. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because sometimes we want to do it especially us women. We want to do it everything ourselves, and then we just realize we're stuck, and then we get overwhelmed. And by the time we realize, we give up. And it's important to understand our gaps, and really know that we can do it together, and we don't have to go alone. And that's a key one. So I mean, with everything that is happening, I mean, I assume that there are so many decisions that you had to take, So lately, what was the most difficult decision that you would say you taken, and it took really hard, you spent a hard time to really take this decision, and how did it impact you?
Yeah, I think if I had to think back on some of the difficult decisions for me, specifically around BIOS, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been around. As a technologist, we
Mm-hmm.
don't know when to stop, right? We want to
Mm-hmm.
keep adding features and adding capabilities, and we have this mentality, of course, of okay, it's our baby has to be perfect before we show it to the world, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that it's that get out of that phase of it's got to be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing is don't copy somebody else, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when I really started designing BIOS, I went with my head down, and I just
Mm-hmm.
got, like I said earlier, clarity of thought on what is it that I was trying to accomplish, and then
Mm-hmm.
I designed the whole solution. And
Mm-hmm.
then I didn't look right or left, right? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
look at other companies out there. How are they doing it? What does the app look like? What does the user face interface look like? I didn't look at it at any of that. I just said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Mary, what's the vision, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you've done this. You've been to this rodeo before. And
Mm-hmm.
then once I got through that, and built the right team around me, then we actually built the solution. But let me tell you, one of the mistakes I made, and I went back and I had to rebuild the entire thing, was I should have paid a
Mm-hmm.
little more focus up front on all of the UI work, because for me, UI is everything. The
Mm-hmm.
experience of the user and the individual using our application has to be engaging. It has to be informative. It has to be educational. It has to be something truly unique that they don't have out there today. And so we
Mm-hmm.
went back and actually when COVID happened and we went into lockdown, we all just put our head down and we revamped the entire app, and we almost rewrote the entire front end of it in the following 3 months, right? And now we've got a solution that it probably could have gone live 3-4 months ago, but I took a bit of a pivot because I really wanted to also provide a solution that addressed COVID, that addressed
Mm-hmm.
how do we bring people back into society, right, in a way that it's not a silver bullet, because as you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's just no silver bullets with COVID, right? I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
people that are they're building all these solutions out there, and they're saying, oh, come to us and we'll show you the results of COVID. And well, that's just,
Mm-hmm.
as one of the ER doctors said to me, well, Mary, you and I both know that's BS, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think with what we did was we took a pivot and we said, all right, we can't tell you if you have COVID or not, because you could have
Mm-hmm.
got tested. Your test results could say, I don't have COVID. You could have stopped at the
Mm-hmm.
gas station on the way going home and caught COVID, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so there again, there's no silver, but how many layers of kind of social confidence, if you will, security can
Mm-hmm.
we build in place to try to help bring about some confidence back into society again, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing at BIOS. So
Mm-hmm.
with our health pass, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And
so
then,
for me, those decisions were just around making sure that it's good is good enough right now, right?
mm-hmm.
As long as you're going to keep working, of course, you're going to keep adding capabilities to it, but it's great product as it is, and that's why we're now starting to bring it to the world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And people have to understand that it's never 100%. Technology is never 100%. Science is never 100. And I think that's the battle right now. They think that because science is saying something, it's gonna be 100%. No, I mean it's gonna be better, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna be 100%. So we have to be comfortable with that and still follow the science even if it's not 100%. That's the big challenge, and I think the awareness that we scientists and people working in technology need to to do, because when they hear about technology, it has to be 100%, otherwise there's something wrong. So we have
Yeah.
Florence again, and she just saying that she needs you in the rural community, so she might get in contact later on. And we just have Christelle. Christelle is actually watching from France, so just coming in. So Christelle, I hope you enjoy it. And so we're gonna have another break, and we'll go to the last part of the show. It's going just so fast, and I don't even want to stop anymore. So it's
It's
but
been
let's
great.
have
It's
the
been great.
let's have the break and come back. are back with Mary and with our exciting conversation. But one question that I really love, asking my guest is, you've been doing this amazing work and continue to, disrupt, the your sector. But what is, what more, what legacy do you really want to leave on top of that?
Oh, yeah, great question. Um, I think that it's twofold for me, right, Merely? We actually just started. I just started a foundation called ICU, and
Mm-hmm.
ISEEU, and
Mm-hmm.
the website will be coming out soon. It's ICU.world. But for me, that question is twofold, right?
Mm-hmm.
The humanitarian in me, of course. I want to leave the world a better place than I found, right? As cliche as it may sound, it is something that is very near and dear to my heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
I come from a place where, life was hard, and it wasn't always just. And it was, I never want a child to have to experience the type of experiences that I had to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first part of me says I want to create communities that really brings hope, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
brings hope to everyone, giving them, those that are the least of our brothers and sisters, right? The
Mm-hmm.
level playing field when it comes to education and medical services, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think education and medical services are the two key components to eradicating poverty, right? If you're not healthy,
Mm-hmm.
you can't study, you can't learn, you can't do. And if you don't have the opportunity to be educated, you don't have the opportunity to truly flourish, right? And I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean educated in the sense of, okay, I got to go into the classroom and I've got to have,
Mm-hmm.
mathematics and science and all the studies, that history and all those. I think the traditional ways of education, I think that system is broken, actually, and there's a lot of good
Mm-hmm.
work out there that's being done to fix it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to be able to provide a level playing field for everyone in the world to have equal opportunity to education and medical services. So part of what we're going to do with the ICU organization is we are going to kind of start helping to build regenerative environments, right? Especially in
Mm-hmm.
remote areas. I can't wait to talk to Florence and talk to her about that. We're talking to quite a few people across a
Mm-hmm.
few different countries in Africa, as well as over quite a few states here in India, in that
Mm-hmm.
particular area. So that's part of the legacy. That legacy of saying that, I brought hope to people,
Mm-hmm.
and when I stand in front of my maker, I want him to I want him to say to me, well done, my servant, right? You have loved much, therefore, yeah, welcome to eternity, right? So for me, that's what's very important. That's what resides with me. The second part of that is around BIOS, of course. When you think about what we're doing, I'm at that point in my career where I've made a decision. I've thrown everything in the ring, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I've had the courage to make this bold move to go after a very complex problem out there. And while, there will be some growing pains to get there, I
Mm-hmm.
hope people will give us a chance to earn their trust, right? So for me, it's all about, I wanted to be a doctor when I was younger, when I was a child growing up, and I wanted to serve in around the globe. We used to have these little pamphlets, these little Marino pamphlets, and I went to a Catholic school, and I saw all these incredible poverty around the world, and I said, I want to go do something about that, and I wanted to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Circumstances didn't allow that, but that's okay. I have an opportunity now to do it in a different way. So I want to try to help save lives, right? And
Mm-hmm.
BIOS is a strong proponent and will be able to do that. I've had personal stories along my own journey where people have unfortunately lost their lives unnecessarily, right? So how do we create an
Mm-hmm.
environment that allows people to truly be informed, make informed decisions around their health and the lives of their family, and yeah, and again, kind of give everyone a playing level field to live a healthier lifestyle. Yeah, those
Mm-hmm.
are two key components for
Very,
me when I think about my
very
legacy. Yeah,
powerful. Very, very powerful. And we need hope right now. I think a lot of people need this hope. And if we
indeed.
can give them, the hope, it's already one thing, big thing that we do and we have done so far. So Amazing, amazing conversation. Unfortunately, we have to, almost leave it there. But before we leave, just want to know: is there anything that you want the audience to know? Something happening or something you need help with? And just just let us know, and how they can connect with you as well is very important.
Absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity. So please reach us on bios.life. That's B1OS.life.
Mm-hmm.
That's our website, and you can go to our Reach Us page and send us some information. Let us know what you're interested in. How can we start collaborating with you? Whether you are, medical professional institutions, educational institutions, pharmacies, diagnostic centers, sports institutions, right? We think sports is the psyche of society, right? And we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
think about how do we get fans back in the seats, and how do we get to experience life like we experienced it, at least a little bit of what we had before COVID. So any of those organizations, we're excited to start partnering with you and doing some early adoption work with you. We've got some great solutions for all of you. Follow us on all the social channels. We're out there. Just look for B1OS.life. We're out there. Subscribe to our blog. I put a lot of great information, and I write a lot of the blogs myself. And so, and it's tuned for all of the great NGO work that we're going to be doing with the ICU organization, where we are
Mm-hmm.
currently right now working to try to help support a boarding school for high school girls in the northern jungles of Jazakan. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
so pretty excited. We're looking for support there, and a lot's going to be coming out around that soon. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, give us a chance to earn your trust, I would say, and check us out on b1os.life. Send us an info or info at
Mm-hmm.
bios.life, b1os.life, and let us know how we can start working together with you and your
Mm-hmm.
organizations. Yeah,
Fantastic. And I see that Florence, she's saying that she will contact you. So Florence is a very powerful woman as well.
excellent.
She's doing empowerment work in Burundi, and I would say all over Africa as well, in South Africa. So it would be really I think a good partnership or collaboration, that I see. So I mean, that's
Thank
the
you.
end. That's the end of the show.
I look forward to it.
It's been amazing, and I can see from people who are live that they really enjoy the conversation. I mean, and they learned a lot. So if you want to continue this conversation, please get in contact with Mary. You can find her on social media, but also a company is called Bias, and you can find everything. So don't hesitate to contact her, and a project is actually expanding, so it might be in your country, so make sure you get in contact with her as soon as possible. For us, it's gonna be bye bye, but I really want to thank you, Mary, for your energy, for all the knowledge and all the information that you've shared today. It's been amazing, and I'm gonna borrow the powerful from the audience. It's been a powerful session, and I really enjoy, having this conversation with you. So that's all for today, and have a great evening, and we stay in contact anyway. So for the audience, I hope you took note, and like I said, make sure you connect with Mary, and get this conversation going, and get to understand a little bit more what BIOS is all about, and how the project is going. But for now on, it's bye bye. I see you next week with another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show. But this time we're gonna stay home, and we're gonna have one of my friend, an Indigenous Australian who is amazing as well, and you will really enjoy her company next week. So thank you, Mary, and see you.
Thank you, my sister.